Section 5, Hazard Awareness. Now this is a particularly bad section for audio, so this is really mainly for my reference, and I'm going to make it as clear as possible, but it's best to refer to the actual book. Where would you expect to see these markers? So there are two vertical strips with diagonal red and yellow stripes, which are on the back of a large goods vehicle. What's the main hazard shown in this picture? Now, there's multiple lanes in this road system. The main thing is that there's a bicycle on the grass, clearly waiting to cross. So it's the cyclist crossing the road. Now, which road user has caused a hazard? Now, they're showing 4 vehicles in total with arrows A, B, C, and D. Now, it's arrowed A, it's the parked car that's the hazard. And that is probably a good one to just try and remember, because you might pick something else on the actual test. What should the driver of the car approaching the crossing do? Now, it's a basic zebra crossing with a pedestrian waiting to cross. And the answer is slow down and get ready to stop. So for this question in particular, the answer is you're not supposed to just stop. You slow down and get ready to stop, which is slowing down, preparing to stop is an answer on many questions. So what should the driver of the grey car arrowed be especially aware of? Now, this is a very narrow road with a lot of parked cars. So the answer is doors opening on parked cars. You see this sign ahead, what should you expect? Now, you should know this by now if you're coming up to your test. It's the long horizontal strip with black and white arrows. So this one's pointing to the left, so it means the road will bend sharply to the left. You're approaching this cyclist, what should you do? He's signalling right to turn right on a fairly small junction. And the answer is slow down and allow the cyclist to turn. Now, you'll find in the official DVSA theory test book that there are many questions where they're trying to ensure that you know that you're trying to give way to the cyclists that are coming up to the junction, because the left hook or the right hook, depending on which country you live in, is one of the leading causes of death for cyclists, where the driver overtakes and then hits a cyclist turning. Why must you take extra care when turning right at this junction? Now, it's just a junction with poor visibility, so the answer is the view is restricted. Which type of vehicle should you be ready to give way to as you approach this bridge? Now, because this is quite a low bridge with marked yellow stripes around it to warn people, the answer is obviously the higher vehicle, which is in this case buses. What type of vehicle could you expect to meet in the middle of the road? The same bridge again. And because it's round around the top, it's not square, the larger vehicles will have to drive in the middle and not on the edge. So the answer is again lorry, because it's a high vehicle. What must you do at this junction? This is a fairly basic junction, but it says stop behind the giveaway line. So the answer is stop behind the line, then edge forward to see clearly. A driver pulls out of a side road in front of you, causing you to brake hard. What should you do? Ignore the error and stay calm. Notice there are many questions and you never answer be angry or respond with annoyance or anger. It's always to try and stay calm. How would age affect an elderly person's driving ability? They'll take longer to react to hazards. You've just passed these warning lights. What hazard would you expect to see next? Now, these are the school crossing patrol lights. So in the UK, it's a vertical light with one light at the top, one light at the bottom. And this photo in particular shows the amber light on top glowing. You're planning a long journey. Do you need to plan rest stops? Yes, regular stops help concentration. The red lights are flashing. What should you do in approaching this level crossing? So it's a level crossing, as the question suggests. The red lights are flashing. Stop before the barrier. You're approaching a crossroads. The traffic lights have failed. What should you do? Be prepared to stop for any traffic. What should the driver of the red car arrowed do? Now, the red car has come through a junction and he's about to come onto one lane from the other side of the junction, but there are pedestrians crossing. So the answer is you have to give way wait for the pedestrian in the road to cross. You're following a slower moving vehicle on a narrow country road. There's a junction just ahead on the right. What should you do? Only consider overtaking when you're past the junction. What should you do as you approach this overhead bridge? Now again, it's the same type of bridge, low with yellow stripes warning you if you're a higher vehicle. And so the answer is that be prepared to give way to large vehicles in the middle of the road, like the other question. But in this case, the only difference is that in large letters on the road, it says high vehicles. Why are mirrors often slightly curved, convex? They give a wider field of vision. You think the driver of the vehicle in front has forgotten to cancel their right indicator. What should you do? Stay behind and don't overtake. A slow-moving lorry showing this sign is travelling in the middle lane of a 3-lane motorway. How should you pass it? Now, it's a yellow square with 4 little orange dots in the corners, a blue circle in the middle, with a white arrow pointing down to the left diagonally. So approach with care and pass on the left of the lorry. What's the main hazard the driver of the red car arrowed should be aware of? Now, he's about to pass a bus that's stopped at the side of the road. So the hazard is the bus may move out into the road. What type of vehicle displays this yellow sign? And now it's the school bus sign. It's a square, yellow square with rounded edges, and it's got an adult and a child there, or a larger child and a small child. What hazard should you be aware of when travelling along this street? Now, this street has lots of parked cars and it's fairly narrow, so the answer is children running out between vehicles. What's the main hazard you should be aware of when following this cyclist? Again, lots of parked vehicles on a residential street with driveways, so the cyclist may swerve into the road in front of you. A driver's behaviour has upset you. What can you do safely to get over this incident? Now again, you don't act angrily, so stop and take a break. How should you drive in areas with traffic calming measures at a reduced speed? When approaching this hazard, why should you slow down? So we've got a slow wording on the road, and it's clearly a level crossing sign. So the answer is because of the level crossing. Why are place names painted on the road surface? To enable you to change lanes early. Some two-way roads are divided into 3 lanes. Why are these particularly dangerous? Because traffic in both directions can use the middle lane to overtake. You're on a dual carriageway. Ahead you see a vehicle with an amber flashing light. What could this be? A disabled person's vehicle. What does this signal from a police officer mean to oncoming traffic? And it's the one where she's got a right hand up in the air and her left hand out, both palms facing the drivers, means stop. Why should you be cautious when going past this stationary bus? And it's just a basic bus. You don't need any of the other information on the road. It's purely, as you've maybe learnt already, that people may cross the road in front of a bus. Where shouldn't you overtake? Approaching a junction. What's an effect of drinking alcohol? Poor judgment of speed. What does the solid white line at the side of the road indicate? It indicates edge of the carriageway. You're driving towards this level crossing. It's just a basic level crossing. What would be the first warning of an approaching train? A steady amber light. You're behind this cyclist. When the traffic lights change, what should you do? Right, there's nothing particularly special about this. It just wants you to remember to allow the cyclist time and room when they're in front of you at the lights. What should the white car do when the traffic lights change to green? So you're at a junction with multiple lanes and there's again a cyclist next to you and the people want you to learn. Wait for the cyclist to pull away. You intend to turn left at the traffic lights. What should you do just before turning? It's exactly the same photograph with the same cyclist next to you. Check for bicycles on your left. Because, as I've said, it's one of the leading causes of death for cyclists. Why should you reduce your speed when driving along this road? Now, there is a sign to the right, and it's a staggered junction sign. So the answer is a staggered junction is ahead. That's the red triangle warning you that there's a staggered junction with the black vertical and roads off it to indicate a staggered junction. So what might you expect to happen in this situation? And now this is a road with the lane closure sign, and the lane is closed on the right and you see that with they show you the road as a vertical black strip and a red block showing that it's blocked off. So the answer is traffic will move into the left hand lane because you're seeing that the right lane is blocked. You're driving on a road with several lanes. You see these signs above the lanes. What do they mean? Now, it's most likely to be a motorway to have this system of signs and lights above each lane. Now, we have 2 red crosses on the right and 2 green crosses on the left and an arrow to go into the left in the middle. So it means the 2 left lanes are open. You're invited to a pub lunch. You know that you'll have to drive in the evening. What's your best course of action? Don't drink any alcohol at all. You've been convicted of driving while unfit through drink or drugs. You'll find this is likely to cause the cost of one of the following to rise considerably. Which one? And the answer is insurance premiums. What advice should you give to a driver who's had a few alcoholic drinks at a party? Go home by public transport. You've been taking medicine that causes drowsiness. You begin to feel better, but you still need to take the medicine. What should you do about driving? Avoid drinking and check with your doctor. You're about to drive home from holiday when you become ill. A doctor prescribes drugs that are likely to affect your driving. What should you do? Get someone else to drive. During periods of illness, your ability to drive may be impaired. What must you do? Make sure you're medically fit to drive. What should you do if you begin to feel drowsy while you're driving? Stop and rest as soon as possible. What should you do if you become tired while you're driving on a motorway? Leave the motorway at the next exit and rest. You're about to drive home. You feel very tired and have a severe headache. What should you do? Wait until you're fit and well before driving. You're driving on a long journey. What can you do to help prevent tiredness? Take regular refreshment breaks. You take some cough medicine given to you by a friend. What should you do before driving? Check the label to see if the medicine will affect your driving. You take the wrong route and find you're on a one-way street. What should you do? Continue to the end of the road. What will be a serious distraction from driving? Looking at road maps. You're driving along this road. The driver on the left is reversing from a driveway. What should you do? Now, this threw me originally because people generally don't do the correct action, and it doesn't say it's about to hit you, but the answer is sound your horn and be prepared to stop. You've been involved in an argument that has made you feel angry. What should you do before starting your journey? Calm down. You're driving on this dual carriageway. Why may you need to slow down? Now there's a sign that you can barely see in the book, but you can just make out that the little red triangle in the yellow sign is a roadworks sign. So the answer is there are roadworks ahead of you. You've just been overtaken by this motorcyclist who is cutting sharply. What should you do? Keep a safe gap. You're about to drive home. You can't find the glasses you need to wear. What should you do? Find a way of getting home without driving. What's a common effect of drinking alcohol? Increased confidence. Your doctor has given you a course of medicine. Why should you ask how it will affect you? Some types of medicine can cause your reactions to slow down. You find that you need glasses to read vehicle number plates at the required distance. When must you wear them? At all times when driving. Which of the following types of glasses shouldn't be worn when driving at night? Tinted. What can seriously affect your ability to concentrate? Drugs. You find that your eyesight has become very poor and your optician cannot help you. By law, who should you tell? The driver licensing authority. When should you use hazard warning lights? When your vehicle has broken down and is causing an obstruction. You want to turn left at this junction. Your view of the main road is restricted. What should you do? Approach slowly and edge out until you can see more clearly. It's just a basic junction with poor visibility. When driving a car fitted with automatic transmission, what would you use kick down for? Quick acceleration. You're driving along this motorway. It's raining. What should you do when following this lorry? Be aware of spray reducing your vision. And it's fairly simple, a lorry and rain and spray in the photograph. You're driving towards this left-hand bend. What dangers should you be aware of? And it's a bend to the left. It's not a complicated photograph. Pedestrians walking towards you. Ahead of you, traffic in the left-hand lane is slowing. What should you do? And I believe it's the same photograph from earlier with the lane closure on the right. The sign, long vertical arrow on the left of the sign, and on the right of the sign a shorter black vertical with a red block at the end to indicate that it's closed. So the answer is slow down, keeping a safe separation distance, because the cars will be moving towards you from the right if you're in the left lane. In which circumstances may you use hazard warning lights? When driving on a motorway to warn traffic behind of a hazard ahead. You're waiting to emerge at a junction. Your view is restricted by parked vehicles. What can help you to see traffic on the road you're joining? Reflections of traffic in shop windows. After passing your driving test, you suffer from ill health. This affects your driving. What must you do? Inform the licensing authority. Why should the junction on the left be kept clear? I can't say anything particular about the junction on the left, but it just says to allow vehicles to enter and emerge. So it's just a basic junction question. Your motorway journey is boring and you feel drowsy. What should you do? Open a window and stop as soon as it's safe and legal. Now, the case study for hazard awareness. You're waiting to turn right in the town centre. Cars are parked along the roadside, obstructing your view. There are many shop windows. The area is busy with traffic and pedestrians. Further on, a vehicle is unloading on the left and there are several oncoming cars. A police officer is directing traffic where the traffic lights have stopped working. He's facing you with one hand straight up, his palm showing. There's a bus lane but no signs showing periods of operation or permitted use by other vehicles. How could the shop windows help you here? As we've learned, by showing reflections on any unseen vehicles approaching. What hazard do the parked cars create? Pedestrians or cyclists could be hidden from view. What should you do about the delivery vehicle? Stop and wait until the way is clear ahead. What must you do in response to the officer's signal? Stop and wait patiently until signalled to go on. When can you use the bus lane? Not at any time. And so ends that section. Section 6. Vulnerable road users. Which sign means that there may be people walking along the road, and it is the red triangle with the adult and child. You're turning left at a junction where pedestrians have started to cross. What should you do? So this is accompanied by a photograph. It's just pedestrians walking across the road, and the answer is give way to them. You're turning left into a side road. What hazard should you be especially aware of? And again, pedestrians. You intend to turn right into a side road. Why should you check for motorcyclists just before turning? They may be overtaking on your right. Why is a toucan crossing different from other crossings? Cyclists can use it, and I just remember it by toucan. How will a school crossing patrol signal you to stop? By displaying a stop sign. Where would you see this sign? And it's a school bus sign, so the answer is on the rear of a school bus or coach. Yellow square with children in it. What does this sign mean? A blue circle with pedestrians underneath and cyclists on top. A cycle on top. A route for pedestrians and cyclists. You see a pedestrian carrying a white stick with a red band. What does this tell you? They're deaf and blind. What action would you take when elderly people are crossing the road? And this question is accompanied by the red triangle sign with the elderly inside it. Be patient and allow them to cross in their own time. What should you do when you see two elderly pedestrians about to cross the road ahead? Be careful, they may misjudge your speed. You're coming up to a roundabout, a cyclist is signalling to turn right. What should you do? Give the cyclist plenty of room. Which of these should you allow extra room when overtaking? And the answer is bicycle. Why should you look particularly for motorcyclists and cyclists at junctions? They're harder to see. You're waiting to come out of a side road. Why should you look carefully for motorcycles? Motorcycles can easily be hidden behind obstructions. In daylight, an approaching motorcyclist is using dipped headlights. Why? So that the rider can be seen more easily. Why should motorcyclists wear bright clothing? Because drivers often do not see them. You're unsure what a slow-moving motorcyclist ahead of you is going to do. What should you do? Stay behind. Why will a motorcyclist look round over their right shoulder just before turning right? To check for traffic in their blind area. Which is the most vulnerable road user at road junctions? Motorcyclist. You're approaching a roundabout. There are horses just ahead of you. What should you do? Give them plenty of room. As you approach a Pelican crossing, the lights change to green. What should you do if elderly people are halfway across? Obviously, wait patiently because they'll probably take longer to cross. There are flashing amber lights under a school warning sign. What action should you take? Reduce speed until you're clear of the area. Why must these road markings be kept clear? And it's the school keep clear sign on the road in yellow with the stripy bits at either side. And it's to allow a clear view of the crossing area. Where would you see this sign? Yet again, it's the school bus sign, so it's on a school bus. You're following two cyclists. They approach a roundabout in the left-hand lane. In which direction should you expect the cyclist to go? Any direction. You're travelling behind a moped. What should you do when you want to turn left just ahead? Stay behind until the moped has passed the junction. You see a horse rider as you approach a roundabout. What should you do if they're signalling right but keeping well to the left? Stay well back. How would you react to drivers who appear to be inexperienced? Be patient and prepare for them to react more slowly. What should you do when you're following a learner driver who stalls at a junction? Be patient as you expect them to make mistakes. You're on a country road. What should you expect to see coming towards you on your side of the road? Pedestrians. What should you do when following a car driven by an elderly driver? Be aware that their reactions may be slower than yours. You're following a cyclist. What should you do when you wish to turn left just ahead? Hold back until the cyclist has passed the junction. And as we've said before, it goes for the entire book. It keeps mentioning cyclists because this is the leading cause of death in cyclists when drivers turn in front of them and take them out. A horse rider is in the left-hand lane approaching a roundabout. Where should you expect the rider to go? In any direction. Powered vehicles used by disabled people are small and hard to see. How do they give early warning when on a dual carriageway? They'll have a flashing amber light. Where would you never overtake a cyclist? Just before you turn left. What does a flashing amber beacon mean when it's on a moving vehicle? The vehicle is slow moving. What does this sign mean? It's the longer horizontal blue square sign with a bicycle on the left and then a white stripe to the right of it. It means with flow cycle lane. You notice horse riders in front. What should you do first? Slow down and be ready to stop. What's the purpose of these road markings? The same ones again that we saw earlier, saying school keep clear, and it's to ensure children can see and be seen when crossing the road. The left-hand pavement is closed due to street repairs. What should you do? Watch out for pedestrians walking in the road. What should you do when you're following a motorcyclist along a road that has a poor surface? Allow extra room in case they swerve to avoid potholes. What does this sign tell you? And it's the red triangle sign with a bicycle inside, meaning cycle route ahead. You're approaching this roundabout and see the cyclist signal right. Why is the cyclist keeping to the left? And it's just a basic photograph of a basic small roundabout. The cyclist is slower and more vulnerable. What should you do when approaching this crossing? And it's a basic zebra crossing with pedestrians waiting, and it's the same as we've seen in other sections. Prepare to slow down and stop. You see a pedestrian with a dog wearing a yellow or burgundy coat. What does this indicate? The pedestrian is deaf, who may use toucan crossings, cyclists and pedestrians. Some junctions controlled by traffic lights have a marked area between two stop lines. What's this for? To allow cyclists to position in front of other traffic. When you're overtaking a cyclist, you should leave as much room as you would give to a car. What's the main reason for this? The cyclist might swerve. What should you do when passing sheep on a road? Go very slowly. At night, you see a pedestrian wearing reflective clothing and carrying a bright red light. What does this mean? You're approaching an organised walk. You've just passed your test. How can you reduce your risk of being involved in a collision? By taking further training. You want to reverse into a side road, but you aren't sure what the area behind your car, is clear. What should you do? Get out and check. You're about to reverse into a side road. A pedestrian is waiting to cross behind you. What should you do? Give way to the pedestrian, who's especially in danger of not being seen as you reverse your car. Children. You want to turn right from a junction, but your view is restricted by parked vehicles. What should you do? Stop, then move forward slowly until you have a clear view. You're at the front of a queue of traffic waiting to turn right into a side road. Why is it important to check your right mirror just before turning? To check for overtaking vehicles. What must a driver do at a pelican crossing when the amber light is flashing? Give way to any pedestrians on the crossing. You've stopped at a pelican crossing. A disabled person is crossing slowly in front of you when the lights change to green. What should you do? Wait for them to finish crossing. You're driving past a line of parked cars. You notice a ball bouncing out into the road ahead. What should you do? Slow down and be prepared to stop for children. You want to turn right from a main road into a side road. What should you do just before turning? Check for traffic overtaking on your right. You're driving in a slow-moving queue of traffic. Just before changing lane, what should you do? Look for motorcyclists filtering through the traffic. You're driving in town. There's a bus at the bus stop on the other side of the road. Why should you be careful? Pedestrians might come from behind the bus. How should you overtake horse riders? Drive slowly and leave plenty of room. Why should you allow extra room when overtaking a motorcyclist on a windy day? The rider may be blown across in front of you. You're driving past parked cars. You notice a bicycle wheel sticking out between them. What should you do? Slow down and be prepared to stop for a cyclist. The road outside this school is marked with yellow zigzag lines. What do these lines mean? And obviously they're yellow zigzag lines. You mustn't wait or park your vehicle here at all. Where should you take particular care to look for motorcyclists and cyclists? At junctions. You're dazzled at night by a vehicle behind you. What should you do? Set your mirror to the anti-dazzle position. You're driving towards a zebra crossing. A person in a wheelchair is waiting to cross. What should you do? Be prepared to stop. Now the case study. You're driving behind a cyclist. The road has potholes and cracks. Further ahead there's a roundabout. A horse rider is approaching it in the left-hand lane. In a built-up area with street lights, you see a school sign with a flashing amber signal. There are no speed limit signs. Later, you stop at a pedestrian crossing where the lights are red. The person crossing carries a red banded white stick and has a guide dog wearing a red and white checked harness. What might the cyclist need to do on this road surface? The answer is swerve. What should you expect the horse rider to do next? Go in any direction. What does this flashing amber signal mean? Children may be crossing the road. What would the speed limit be in the built-up area? 30 miles per hour. What can you tell about the person at the pedestrian crossing? They're deaf and blind. And so ends that section. Section 7. Other types of vehicle. You're about to overtake a slow-moving motorcyclist. Which one of these signs would make you take special care? And it's the red triangle with the wind sock inside it. You're waiting to emerge left from a minor road. A large vehicle is approaching from the right. You have time to turn, but you should wait. Why? The large vehicle can easily hide an overtaking vehicle. You're following a long vehicle. As it approaches a crossroads, it signals left but moves out to the right. What should you do? Stay well back and give it room. You're following a long vehicle approaching a crossroads again. The driver signals right but moves close to the left-hand curb. What should you do? Wait behind the long vehicle. You're approaching a mini roundabout. What should you do when you see the long vehicle in front, signalling left but positioned over to the right? Keep well back. Before overtaking a large vehicle, you should keep well back. Why is this? So we can see some repetition here. To get the best view of the road ahead. You're travelling behind a bus that pulls up at a bus stop. What should you do? Watch carefully for pedestrians. You're following a lorry on a wet road. What should you do when spray makes it difficult to see the road ahead? Drop back until you can see better. And that question is in other sections. You keep well back while waiting to overtake a large vehicle. What should you do if a car moves into the gap? Drop back further. What should you do when you're approaching a bus that's signalling to move away from a bus stop? Allow it to pull away if it's safe to do so. How should you overtake a long, slow-moving vehicle on a busy road? Keep well back until you can see that it's clear. Which of these is least likely to be affected by side winds? And the answer is cars when compared to cyclists, motorcyclists and high-sided vehicles. What should you do as you approach this lorry? Now it's a large lorry coming out of the junction towards you. And the answer is slow down and be prepared to wait because it's covering the road because it's very large as it turns round towards you. You're following a large vehicle approaching a crossroads. The driver signals to turn left. What should you do? Don't overtake as you approach or at the junction. What's the maximum speed of powered wheelchairs or scooters used by disabled people? 8 miles per hour. Why is it more difficult to overtake a large vehicle than a car? It will take longer to pass one. It's very windy. You're behind a motorcyclist who's overtaking a high-sided vehicle. What should you do? Keep well back. You're driving in town. Ahead of you, a bus is at a bus stop. Which of the following should you do? Watch carefully for the sudden appearance of pedestrians. You're driving along this road. What should you be prepared to do? Now, it's exactly the same scenario as the one just mentioned with the large vehicle coming out, this time of a residential area, but he's coming towards you on the road, blocking the road. The answer is, again, slow down and give way. As a driver, why should you be more careful where trams operate? Because they cannot steer to avoid you. And that answer comes up again later, I've read. You're towing a caravan. Which is the safest type of rear view mirror to use? Extended arm side mirrors. You're driving in heavy traffic on a wet road. Spray makes it difficult to be seen. What lights should you use? Dipped headlights. It's a very windy day and you're about to overtake a cyclist. What should you do? Allow extra room. And now for the case study. It's dry but very windy. On the motorway you see a car towing a large caravan in the middle lane. You then move on to a long open stretch of single carriageway where you pass a motorcyclist. Later you're travelling behind a long vehicle and want to overtake. Once in town, there are trams directed by traffic lights and you have to drive across their tracks. Further on, a bus is signalling its intention to pull out from a bus stop. What's the national motorway speed limit for the vehicle and caravan? 60 miles per hour. What could happen to the motorcyclist in these weather conditions? They could be blown off course. What should you do when following the long vehicle? Drop back so you can see more of the road ahead. Why is it important not to obstruct these tracks? Trams are unable to steer round obstructions. What should you do about the bus? Give way as long as it's safe to do so. And so ends that section.